So in the sky cloud group controls, first thing we see are the 9 different cloud groups, and you can just turn them on and off. The viewport will take a few seconds to refresh. And then we come down to these actual group controls here. Enable sky, just what it says. These are all pretty self-explanatory. Enable clouds. Okay, you turn that off. And then this cloud type display, just turn that on and you'll see the different cloud groups that are in here. Okay, it'll just give you a rough idea of what kind of clouds they are. And the next control is the fade clouds towards horizon, which is pretty much what it sounds like. And if I do a quick render here, you'll see that the clouds are fading up so that no clouds are actually touching this horizon. All right, we uncheck that. And now the clouds should go all the way down, like here. Okay. And then this, right now, this is not the default gradient. If you hit reset default fade for clouds, okay, it'll put it back to where it's originally set. And if we look at that now, okay, the clouds come down pretty far, but they don't actually touch the horizon. So like again, you can do whatever you want with this. I would suggest not taking these knots out and putting new ones in because it can mess things up. But if you do by accidentally take one out, just hit the reset and you're back to normal. Next is enable cloud reflections on building. And there's no rule of thumb for this. This is something you just have to play around with. But if you enable the cloud reflections on buildings, it will increase your render time somewhat. But you may not even want that. If you have a lot of clouds, it may be just overpowering. But anyway, there are switches both for cloud reflections on building and sky reflections on building. Okay? And like I said, you have to play around with it. But under this next subheading, okay, there's a special reflector object in here just for the windows and things. And this will override the sky cloud reflections on these building controls. So you can still have these on, but if you turn this on, it's not really going to pay any attention to these anymore. There is one exception, which I will explain. But the reflector object color, now you can then control it. So let's say that you have a blue sky here, but you don't really want the window reflections to be a blue sky because maybe there's a sun back here or whatever, or you want, this bright orange sky, say early in the morning. So then you can put that color in here, and then this is your reflector object brightness. And again, 140 has worked pretty well for me, but you might want to change that around depending on how strong you want your window reflections in the city. And this is the only caveat to these reflections. So this is the reflector influence over actual sky reflections. And what I found working with especially night scenes is with this reflector object, some of the angled buildings, the tops get so bright. But if you decrease this, okay, in other words, down from 40, let's put it down to 20, now the reflector influence on those angled buildings is only going to be 20%. You can put it to 0, and so this won't reflect on any of those types of buildings. And again, of course, you can see that I'm working with the city turned off. It's just much easier to get your skies set up and also to do, quick renders if you want to see what's going on than rendering the whole city. So let's go down to sky appearance. Again, pretty self-explanatory, but you can use this slider to darken or brighten the sky. That way you don't really have to go in and change your sky coloration gradient. All right, and okay, and put that back at 100. But let's say you want to change this. Let's say you want to make this kind of a, I don't know, stormy sky, or maybe you want to make it a weird green sky. Okay, and down here, like some crazy thing, and then turn your brighten sky down. And so now you've got, an unusual sky starting. And let's say you're not wild about it, but you want to play around with this. So, oh gosh. So you can right click on this and say copy. And if you go into save your gradients, I already have two in there. I'm going to leave in there. But you can just paste it right here. And then you can name your gradient, acid sky or whatever. And so now you've saved it for later, okay? And there is a way, I mean, you can save gradients right here, save preset. I'm not sure where they're saved, but I did like the ease of saving them right in the project that I'm working on. So that's there. So if we come back to our sky cloud, maybe you want to start over completely. Again, you can reset sky default gradient and you're back to normal. And you pull this up and now you've got the sky the way it was when you started. Here below is the sky glow brightness, and you see there's a little indicator, sky glow position, and an arrow pointing to it, and you can kind of start to see it over here. But let me move this over. And this is nice when you want to get a little variation in the sky. And this is the brightness of it. So you can increase that. And then, like, say you wanted a sunset, you've got your sun, kind of like it is over here. Maybe you have it lower. And it just adds a little variation to the sky. So it's not just the same color from top to bottom. I mean, it isn't anyway, but. And of course, this is just the horizontal movement and the vertical movement of that. Okay, next tab down is cloud appearance. In here you can move the clouds horizontally, okay, or vertically, just to get some more variation. Show or hide cloud texture seam red line. So what is that about? Well, because of the way I ended up doing these clouds, I had them set to a different way originally, and I thought they were working great, but I found out that they weren't working so great, and you couldn't really stop animating them. Like no matter what you did, they were always moving, and I didn't like that. I wanted to be able to stop them if I wanted to, or animate them if I wanted to. So at some point in your scene, you may be moving your city around, and I'm going to just, instead of moving the city, I'm going to rotate. This is the to avoid texture seam. So I'm going to rotate. There it is. All right, and so why is that there? Well, if I turn that off, I don't know the way the clouds are right now, and just render along where that line was, you're going to see this seam, okay? And it's easy to avoid. I mean, most of the time you just crank it behind, your city or whatever. But that's why I leave this line on. And if you, I want you to make note, and it will render in your scene. So, I wanted to make it very obvious that when you came to that seam, okay? So I'm gonna just zero that out and put that behind my city again. And originally I had it set so the line, so that seam would never come up. But during animations, camera animations, the clouds were moving like really weird back and forth. And it's like, okay, that's not going to work either. So anyway, so that's the deal on that. Next is our cloud coloration. All right, so I'm going to go back and grab this gradient that we have that I saved here. This was an alternate one I had played around with, which I liked. But come in here and paste. And so that's kind of a cool sky, and that's why I liked it. It's got these cool darker clouds near the horizon, then these kind of orangey clouds, and pretty cool. There's so much you can do. This is so fun playing with this. And then, if you want to change it again, you just want to go back to the default. It's as simple as resetting that gradient. I'm going to undo that and leave my orange clouds. And down below that is cloud brightness. So if I turn that down, maybe about there, let's just re-render that. And so now you're getting kind of the sun has kind of already set, but there's a little light left in it. And yeah, so you get the idea. So that's the brightness. And this last setting, which is right at the bottom here, which I can't get it up anyhow. Oh, there it is increase cloud cover over sun. So if you have a sun in here, and I'll just pull this up right now, and you'll start to see, let's get this back to 100, and you'll probably start to see, especially in these heavier cloud areas, that these clouds have gotten more dense. Okay. You can see now that the clouds are much more dense, much darker um, than they were before. So that's about it for the sky cloud group controls. See you in the next tutorial.